All right, so now we go from the actual versus static budget to an actual versus flexible budget. Go ahead and set it up. Dun, dun, dun. You can probably guess the header will be different. And go ahead and, just do the header and your amounts off to the side to set it up. All right, so I set it up. The order of these columns does not matter. I mean, variance always comes last. It's actual and budget. Your book shows it in this order, so I'm following that. Other textbooks will have the budget first, then the actual. So please don't freak out if you see it in the opposite order. It does not matter. Just make sure the variance is the difference between the two. Alrighty, so I've set this up. Now the difference between the static budget and the flexible budget really happens here in the first line. We set the first line to be the same, okay? So we set it to be the actual. So set level, set activity level for budget column based on actual level of quantity or output. That's the big difference. So that means in this first line, the quantity, the days, for our example is days, could be units, could be hours. There should be no variance. We're going to set the quantity to be the same, and it's based off the actual. So in our example, the actual was 10 days worked. 10 days. That means the flexible budget, because we can move it, we can flex it. So we're going to take the static budget of 15 and move it to 10. Why? Because we're trying to get rid of any difference due to quantity. So we can focus on price, because that gives management better control. All right, we had no difference in revenue per day. We could have, but in this case, I didn't do that as an example, so there's no variance there. Total revenue, 1,000. Okay. Actuals, fill in your actuals, and these would be given to you in the problem as well. So our actual 70 to 140, 850, Okay, and that would be given. So our actual was 70 for gas, 200 for food, 40 for coffee, 850 for rent, 35 for utilities, and 150. So we had a loss of 345. So the actual column doesn't change. See? Doesn't change. The budget column will, because now we're doing a flexible budget. Okay, so we're going to take all of our costs and flex it to the actual quantity. So let me write here, budgeted cost per unit. Cost per unit. You don't have to include this. I think it'll make it helpful here in your notes, and you're welcome to include it if you want to. So our budgeted cost per unit, and maybe this is a good time to review. Remember when we were preparing the flexible budget, I gave you some steps. I said first calculate the budgeted cost per unit. You're lucky in this example we have the budgeted cost per unit, so we don't really have to do that. But let's say we didn't. Let's say it was, we needed to find out what the per unit was. You would take, for example, for gas, 120 divide by the budgeted quantity. So to get that, you take your total budgeted cost and divide by your budgeted quantity. Okay, so in this example, the budgeted for food, it's gas, 120 divided by 15. 120 divided by 15. So that gives us a cost per unit of 8. Okay, because the majority of the examples you'll see, you're going to have to calculate that. I know in this example, I gave you the 8, but just in case. And then you're going to take that cost and flex it. So flex to actual level. So take your budgeted cost per unit, budgeted cost per unit times actual level. Okay, so $8. In this case, remember our actual level, 10 days. is. All right. So $80. Do the same thing, flex. This was 8. So let's figure out what the cost is here. So it'd be 200 divided by the 15, or 20, I think. Oh, no, sorry. 300 divided by the 15, which is the 20. Gotta follow my own rules. Coffee, if we wanted to figure out if it hadn't been given, 75 divided by 15. 5 times 10. Fixed costs, usually they're the same, so I would copy it over from the static budget. Your static budget and your flexible budget fixed costs are the same. All right, let's math that out. Should get a net loss of 365. Okay, so let's look at interesting. We expected to do worse off. We did less worse. So let's figure out why. So here we're going to take the difference between the two. So here we have a difference of 10. Is it favorable or unfavorable? Remember, look at the impact to net income. Lower costs, that's favorable. No variance here. Here we had another $10 variance. Favorable or unfavorable? Favorable. No variance, no variance, no variance. So $20 favorable, and it should work both ways. $20 favorable because it's less of a loss. I know. Okay, so this provides us better control over the static budget, because now we can look back and see, because here it looks like we have an unfavorable variance. So we're like, oh, we did something bad, we did something wrong. But the flexible budget says, actually, for this new level, you controlled your costs well, because your costs were less than they were expected to be. So this helps. A flexible budget helps truly identify cost control, because it eliminates any variance due to quantity. Because variances due to quantity are eliminated. Because of course we're going to have a difference in amounts if the quantity is different. If we work more days, we're going to expect all our variable costs to increase, because that's how they behave, right? But if we want to see, well, how did you control the cost? Did you spend less? Was the per unit less? That can really only be seen if you do a flexible budget comparison. Okay, so hopefully that helps. You'll get a chance to practice, and let me know if you have any questions.